Hi, this is Shadi, and today we're going to be looking at an old video of United States Army training judo. This is circa 1940s. One of my friends sent this to me. You can find it in its entirety on YouTube. It's called US Army Judo Training. It's 1 hour long. There is from basic how to fall down, ukemi, self-defense drills against strikes and weapons. But what I found most interesting is they have one chapter against wrestling holds like the Nelson, the what we call the chicken wing or the hammerlock, and front headlock. So we're going to be taking a look at that, and particularly the how to get out of these locks, and also how they unbalance, because this is a no-gi instructional. They're wearing just their basic t-shirt, so it's very important to see how they adapted judo to a more of a military context. So again, keep in mind, drilling isn't everything, but it's a very important part. So without further ado, let's begin. So here it is, judo against defense against wrestling holds. It starts off with your full Nelson, where he chops both hands, underhooks them, and really locks the neck. So the defense I found to be very interesting. He really raises the hands and then chops them down. So it's very much like a teiwaza, I would say, or a hand technique, not a hip technique. The way he chops down his hands and his upper body, it's kind of like a serenage motion, but in serenage you have your hand underneath their hand, so you're the one that's actually underhooking rather than them. But he had his arms over, but nonetheless, since there was a very close contact, he was able to lift his arm up and chop down, and thus he was able to create the same effect even though it wasn't the same hold. So I would qualify it as a teiwaza. Now, since the hand they were above because they're in a full Nelson, it was kind of like a makikomi, but there wasn't like a sacrificial role. When we say sacrifice in judo, usually it means, we throw ourselves down in order to throw our opponent or training partner. That's why it's a sacrificing technique, because if I don't throw myself down on the ground like a tomoe nage, there's no technique. So if a technique can be done standing up, then it's no longer a sutemi waza. So here you see you have your hand over, but there's no sacrificing motion. So I would qualify it as a teiwaza. It's a small hybrid of serenage and like a makikomi. So here, let's see in detail what he actually did in order to really throw him. So he has that Nelson fully locked. So the establishing contact, there's no kuzushi, there's no big pull and then putting yourself in a position to do it and then just chopping. So here he just lifts his hand up and really chops down. Not so much hips, it's actually the pelvis. Yes, creates a block, but it creates leverage rather than just lifting him up like a hip toss basically. So here you see he just cuts down with the hands, and I would qualify it more of a serenage or a variation of it. So here, the next one is your side headlock, finished with a skui nage or a scooping throw. So here, you will go down, you hug them from the back, and then you hook the leg, lift all the way up, you squat down so you can have all this momentum while going up, and you throw with skui nage. You can either frame like you see here, or you can hug, in my opinion, like around the lat, the far lat, and you scoop up and throw down. But the framing is very good because you actually take the head away from them, so you would relieve a lot of the pressure that's on your head. So here you see you lift the leg up, you squat, jump up, and scoop them up and throw them. So let's see skui nage in judo. Here you see, for example, the leg as it's going in order to throw for chimata or hanegoshi. You grab it, you go to the side, and you finish them. So you are really drawing their circle for them, continuing their action in a sense. There's also a front attack or a backwards throw like osotogari. Here you see they're gonna attack with osotogari. You scoop up the way you saw, but this one here, he was facing them. So let's take a look at an old jiu-jitsu drill performed by Rickson. The same thing here. He's going for the headlock. He frames, goes in, hip contact very close, scoops up, and throws. So these you know, the old school jiu-jitsu generation like Rickson, they really reflect the old self-defense teachings of the Japanese, of Elio Gracie, and all these older generation. The same thing did it to a T. So here, let's see it one more time. He frames. It's very important to frame to alleviate pressure, and you scoop up the leg and then you strike the ribs. The next one is the front headlock. This can easily lead up to a guillotine if you're doing jiu-jitsu. Now this one, I don't know if I misunderstood it but I'm a bit skeptical, since sometimes there could be a lot of pressure on the neck. So here, just grabbing the tricep and just pushing down on the fist, it might not be enough unless you really know how to wrist lock them. Then I would say it's okay, but you have to be really strong to really break a strong headlock the same way the guy did it. It's not just, you know, you slip your head out. And here, finished with an Osoto Otoshi. He doesn't reap the leg, he just puts his leg really far down and trips them on their leg and drops them down. It's not a reap, it's more of a drop in my opinion, since the leg did not reap away all the way up. Let's see Osoto Otoshi, and here you see finished with a wrist lock. So this is Osoto Otoshi. You can see it written on the lower right of the corner of the screen. Here you see, like, he cuts down the leg, he doesn't reap it, and puts his leg down. He doesn't reap away all the way up like a traditional Osotogari. The differences are nuanced, I understand, but it's very important to understand the difference between a drop and a reap. You're actually pushing down and you are just putting the leg down. You don't have to like kick it back like you see here. You just have to pose it and chop down with the hand. That would also qualify as a Osoto Otoshi. Here, let's see it one more time for the final technique. Boom, chops down, Osoto Otoshi, finished with a wrist lock, pushing the elbow or the wrist against the elbow. And here the final one is your hammerlock, or what people call a chicken wing. So here he turns towards him to relieve the pressure and finishes it with a koshi guruma, or like a wheel, hip wheel. So here he stomps on the leg to create distraction and cause some pain, turns towards him, stretches the arm. And look, since there is really deep contact, there's no need for kuzushi or a jacket. You just have to really establish chest-to-chest contact, similar to Greco, and we're gonna see a Greco example of it. And then he wraps around and then just takes him down, lifting hip on the hips all the way, creating a wheel motion where the hip is the axis, hence the name Koshi Guruma, or hip wheel. So here you see you have kuzushi really pulling up with the jacket, taking the head and then wheeling them over your hips. So it's very important to understand terminology. Let's see it here. He lifts up the jacket. You know, with the jacket you have to create kuzushi, tsukuri and kake, but when you are in a nogi, I would say, context, you have to create really close contact, because however you move, they're gonna follow you if you have really close contact. Let's see a few Greco-Roman examples. So here you see you have very close chest contact. Here also double over or over and under, and then you just chop down the head. There's no need for a big lift with the jacket, you just need very close contact. So here, let's see it again. He turns towards him to alleviate pressure on the shoulder, and with close contact he just grips the head and wheels him over the hips. So I hope you found this interesting. Judo, as Neil Adams said, they have a very good capability to adapt whatever context they are in, because all you have to do is really understand the physics of the body to make the throw really possible. It's not just always the jacket with the kuzushi, tsukuri and kake. So techniques are found all over the grappling world. I know this is what makes judo special, kuzushi, tsukuri and kake, but you know, a Greco-Roman would also do the same technique the same way, but it's found in judo. This is what's very important to distinguish between two arts, is how you get to the throw. Even though they have very similar throws, but from point A to point B, it's what really matters. It's not the throw itself, because the human body exists all over the place, all around the world. So if you have anything else to add, let me know down below. Also, consider supporting me on Patreon. I have exclusive content for you patrons only. This was Shadi, and thank you for listening.